Every year's driver's market, also known as silly season, is one of the most anticipated parts of an F1 season, but 2023's edition of the contract rush was a huge disappointment. That is not going to happen this year though, as a huge number of drivers are out of contract, and every one of them will be looking to make a move up the grid. A large number of them need to be looking over their backs as well at the burgeoning group of junior drivers that are desperate for a seat. Today, I'll look at who could go where, why McLaren are at threat, and why Mercedes might have screwed themselves. So let's get started. 2023's driver market was a big letdown as everyone just held station for the year. It was especially disappointing after 2022's madness that was triggered by Sebastian Vettel's retirement. Fernando Alonso delayed his move to Aston Martin long enough that Oscar Piastri could trigger a clause in his contract allowing him to leave Alpine's junior program and sign for whoever he wanted. The team he wanted was McLaren, but they had to pay Daniel Ricciardo tens of millions of dollars to buy him out of his contract. Being paid 8 figures to not drive for a team anymore and being replaced by a rookie is as brutal a firing as I can remember in F1. We also got the legendary, "I understand that without my agreement, Alpine F1 have put out a press release later this afternoon that I'm driving for them next year. That is wrong," tweet from Oscar Piastri. Who knew at the time just how big a bullet he dodged with that tweet as Alpine imploded over the course of 2023. 2024 is threatening to offer an equally entertaining silly season, with 14 drivers' contracts expiring on the 31st of December. There isn't a world where everyone stays put, with unhappy teams and drivers across the grid, as well as some very promising junior talent desperate to get their chance. The only teams that might not be involved in this season's carousel are Mercedes and McLaren. In McLaren's case, the incredibly promising youngster Oscar Piastri is tied up until the end of 2026. The Australian rookie's start to life in F1 was so impressive, McLaren sought to extend his contract before his debut campaign was over. By tying the 22-year-old to the team until 2026, the team made a commitment to him which has paid dividends already, as Oscar had one of the most impressive rookie seasons in recent memory. A sprint race win and 2 Grand Prix podiums is only the beginning for him. Lando Norris is tied up until the end of 2025, but could be central to the driver market if he can be tempted away from the team. His move is completely dependent on the McLaren car's performance. If the Papaya team can build a car capable of challenging Red Bull, then it's unlikely that Lando will go anywhere. But if they can't, then Red Bull might be able to tempt him away. That won't be easy though, as McLaren's offensive lineman of a team principal Zak Brown is determined to keep one of the most talented drivers in F1 on his team. He issued a hands-off warning to Christian Horner's potential rush, stating that there's no figure that the team would consider to part ways with Norris. "I don't know enough about soccer to know what the economics are," Brown joked to Sky Sports when asked if Norris would be sold to Red Bull for £100 million. He's quite a valuable racing driver, a great asset to the racing team. There is no number that we would be interested in trading him for. While McLaren have 2 stars for the future tied down for multiple years, Mercedes is in a much worse position. I know what you're thinking. How can a team with the most successful driver in F1 history be in a bad spot? Well, Mercedes' problem is that they have fallen out of lockstep with the rest of the grid. While everyone else is able to be active on the market in 2024, Mercedes aren't, and it isn't like they're in a position like McLaren. Lewis Hamilton will be 7 days short of 41 when his current contract expires at the end of 2025. Between fashion, music, and the movies, Hamilton has a lot of stuff going on outside of racing, and if Mercedes don't look like competing for a title in the immediate future, he might decide to call it quits on F1 and enjoy his millions. George Russell is still yet to prove himself as a real World Championship contender as well. He looks close, but that last couple of percent make all the difference in F1, and Toto Wolff isn't in F1 to compete, he's in it to win it. George's contract is also up at the end of 2025, but with everyone else on the grid signing new contracts this year, Mercedes will be devoid of experienced options if they decide he isn't up to the task of filling Hamilton's race shoes. Merck might be forced to keep Russell and pick up a rookie to replace Hamilton. Not where they want to be at all. But what about those that will be on the move? Well, one seat in particular will be of massive interest to every driver looking for a new team. For some time, the seat alongside Max Verstappen at Red Bull has been the center of speculation. A hugely disappointing 2023 campaign for Perez created plenty of doubt over whether he would be given the opportunity to see out the final year of his contract. With his position safe for at least the start of the 2024 season, it would take quite a turnaround for the Mexican to produce a campaign that could convince the team to offer him a new deal. Furthermore, team boss Christian Horner has already revealed he's been made aware of interest in a 2025 drive at Red Bull from multiple other drivers. Both of the drivers at the Visa Cash App RB team will be interested in that seat, and both would be available as well. Yuki Tsunoda has been slowly improving as his years at the Red Bull Junior team have passed, but his wild inconsistency is still a big problem, and at this point, he seems completely out of the team's plans. A move to Aston Martin is apparently more likely, but I'll come back to that later. Daniel Ricciardo is also desperate for a seat back at Red Bull, but it won't be given to him unless he really deserves it. The triumphant return of the Aussie after his walk of shame from McLaren failed to live up to expectations, as he failed to score twice before breaking his hand so badly he had to sit out 5 races. A 7th place in Mexico doesn't change the fact that he didn't look any better than Tsunoda over the 7 races they drove together. It's probably fair to say that whoever Red Bull wants to pair alongside Verstappen, they can get. Norris and Hamilton being the only exceptions, but even then, it isn't impossible. Liam Lawson made an impressive 5-race debut when he stepped in for Daniel Ricciardo last year, and if Red Bull don't get him in any of their forecasts for 2025, then he will go elsewhere. Putting him alongside Max Verstappen might not be a bad idea. Max does have a habit of demolishing his teammates, just ask Albon, Gasly, Ricciardo and Perez. But as a rookie, no one would have any expectations for Lawson. The pressure would be off, he could learn from the best, and if it doesn't work out, then Red Bull will probably win both championships anyway, just off the points scored by Verstappen. But Red Bull are likely to want someone a bit more experienced, and if Norris is off the limits, then they could turn to Ferrari. Despite reports in Italy a month ago claiming Charles Leclerc has agreed a 5-year extension with the Italian team, nothing has happened, meaning he's still a free agent at the end of 2024. While team principal Frédéric Vasseur has said Ferrari are not in a rush to get new deals with either of their drivers completed, he might be encouraged to get things done before Red Bull come knocking. Leclerc is a driver in demand. The Monegasque was linked to Mercedes in the early stages of last season, but new deals for Lewis Hamilton and George Russell have seen the prospect of such a switch fade away. If Leclerc does get tied up by Ferrari before Red Bull can convince him to change team, then Carlos Sainz will be near the top of the team's shopping list. The Spaniard has publicly been pushing for a medium to long-term deal with Ferrari, but the Scuderia are reportedly not that keen on giving him much more than a 1-year plus 1 optional year extension, or a 2+1 deal. Sainz has also been linked with a move to Audi when they officially take over from Sauber in 2026. With his father having won the Dakar Rally with them recently, Carlos has a man on the inside to help that deal as well. Whether he stays at Ferrari, returns to Red Bull or moves to Sauber, Carlos doesn't seem like the first choice for any of the teams. To replace him, Ferrari could look to Alex Albon. A strong campaign saw the British-born Thai driver's stock rise significantly in 2023. Williams appears to have been the perfect place for him to rebuild his career after a challenging start within the Red Bull system. He enters the 2nd and final year of his deal with a team who may need to make further progress if they are to persuade him not to seek potential opportunities further up the grid. With Ferrari's options for promising drivers limited, Albon could be in line for a massive jump up the grid. That is assuming Ferrari don't decide to bring in a youth prospect to replace Sainz. Robert Schwartzman has had plenty of test drives for the Scuderia now. The 24-year-old Israeli already has some proven credentials. He won the F3 title in 2019 before taking 4th and 2nd in F2 in the next 2 seasons. In free practice at the 2023 season finale, he gave his most polished performance yet in an F1 car, lapping 200th down on Carlos Sainz's Ferrari in Abu Dhabi, on what looked like similar run plans. A quick mention goes to the very promising Oliver Bearman as well, but at 18 years old and with only a single season in F2 under his belt, it may be a bit early for the young Brit. Though he had a very strong run in Abu Dhabi FP1 at the end of 2023, lapping within a tenth of Kevin Magnussen's time, the closest of any of the rookies to an established F1 driver. Of all the rookies with a chance of a seat from 2025 onwards though, Theo Pourchaire is the favourite. The Sauber junior driver won the F2 championship in 2023 despite only winning 1 race all season. His outstanding consistency was enough to get him the championship win by 11 points over the Mercedes rookie Frederik Vesti, who managed 6 race wins over the season. With both seats coming free at Sauber at the end of 2024, Pourchaire will be very keen to get on the grid for 2025, and presumably occupy one of the Audi cars from 2026 onwards. Sauber are one of the teams who could decide to let both of their drivers leave at the end of 2024. Zhou Guanyu's 2024 seat was one of the few that was still unconfirmed midway through last season, but he finally received a 1-year extension in September. The great news for Zhou and the sport is that there will be a home driver as Formula 1 returns to China for the first time since 2019. Beyond that, the 24-year-old needs a strong campaign to extend his stay at motorsport's top table. The other Sauber driver, Valtteri Bottas, signed a long-term deal when he joined from Mercedes in 2022, which is understood to run to the end of 2024, with an option for a third season. It's unclear whether the option belongs to the driver or the team though. Sauber, formerly Alfa Romeo, have failed to provide Bottas with a competitive car, while the 10-time race winner has perhaps failed to outperform his inexperienced teammate to the degree many would have expected. With neither Zhou or Valtteri really shining at the team, a swap to Sainz and Pourchaire could be seen as a direct upgrade by most people. Another team with no drivers signed beyond 2024 is Alpine. Esteban Ocon's lengthy contract comes to an end this year, with the Frenchman having impressed during his stay at the Enstone team. He outscored double world champion Fernando Alonso in 2022 and was only 4 points adrift of Pierre Gasly last year, despite 7 DNFs. Gasly settled in well at Alpine and achieved his principal goal of beating Ocon, but like his teammate, must negotiate a new deal if he is set to extend his stay. Alpine are in the midst of an overhaul, having lost a string of senior management last year, the majority of whom will have made the calls to recruit both Ocon and Gasly. And while those now in charge are believed to be happy with what their driver lineup delivered in 2023, they will play the market given how many good drivers are potentially available. Alpine's problem is they're stuck in no man's land. Finishing 6th in the Constructors' Championship last year, they were 160 points off 5th place McLaren, and never looked any better than that. With the massive management reshuffle that happened in 2023, most people would say they're more likely to be overhauled by the teams below them than catch those in front. Alex Albon is arguably the only driver from a team below them who could be an improvement, so Alpine should be keen to retain both of their drivers beyond 2024. The other team in that position, though for very different reasons, is Aston Martin. Team principal Mike Crack has made no secret of the fact he would love Fernando Alonso to stay beyond the end of 2024, and sources say senior personnel within the team back that view. He'll be 43 when his current deal comes to an end later this year, but age appears to be no barrier for the remarkable Spaniard. After leaving Alpine to join Aston Martin at the start of 2023, Alonso made a stunning start to the season by taking 6 podiums in the first 8 races. A shock move to Red Bull or Ferrari, or perhaps an inevitable retirement, are probably the only way that Alonso will leave the team. Equally, it's difficult to imagine a world where Lance Stroll isn't driving an Aston Martin while his father remains the owner, so it's almost certain he'll stay put for 2025 too. The further down the grid you go, the hazier things become. As for example, have 2 drivers who are decent enough, but who are both fed up with the team's uncompetitive cars. Hülkenberg's qualifying performances in 2023 might be enough to get him a move to somewhere more competitive, but Kevin Magnussen will need a very strong 2024 to get him another F1 contract. Ex-team principal Gunther Steiner said he would never again work with rookie drivers after having to deal with Mick Schumacher and Nikita Mazepin, but he isn't at the team anymore. I said earlier that Behrman might be too young for an F1 seat, but he could be Haas's best option for 2025. The other backmarking team, Williams, are in a very different position. They are definitely a team on the up, with their outstanding young team principal James Vowles having galvanized the team into a very strong 2023 performance. No one expects anything other than more of the same from them in 2024. Their improvement has been helped by Alex Albon. If Williams can keep hold of him past 2024, it'll be because they have proved to him they can continue to improve, perhaps by challenging Alpine at the bottom of the midfield. Alex definitely won't be staying because of a lack of suitors, something that at the moment can't be said about Logan Sargent. He was the last driver on the grid to have his 2024 seat confirmed and had to endure months of speculation over his future before being granted another year in F1. The American has a lot to prove after a rookie campaign littered with errors, and will come under pressure once more if there are no signs of progress during the first half of the campaign. Should Williams make a good step, and there's a good chance that can happen given they stopped development on their 2023 car after race 8 to throw everything at 2024, they will suddenly become a much more attractive proposition, and for the first time in years, give them more choice in the driver market. Logan will likely be out of a seat in that case, but his replacement could be another rookie, though one with a lot more promise. The driver that Porsche beat in F2 last year, Frederik Vesti, is the likeliest suitor. Vesti was signed to the Mercedes Junior program in 2021 and concluded a full young driver test for them in Abu Dhabi in 2022. He made his debut on a full Grand Prix weekend at Mexico last season, when he completed the low-speed run over 26 laps and finished 19th, which Toto Wolff admitted was not the ideal chance to assess the youngster's talents. In FP1 at Abu Dhabi, he had a better shot, taking over Lewis Hamilton's car and staying within 7/10 of George Russell. With Mercedes and Williams close ties, Vesti could be in with a serious shot of a seat. Alternatively, there is a rookie driver at Aston Martin who may be sick of waiting for his chance at the team. Felipe Drugovich is an object lesson in just how hard it is to break into F1, as drivers extend their careers for longer, and with a lack of testing time, teams value competitive experience highly. The 23-year-old won the F2 title in 2022 and joined the Aston Martin driver development program, becoming one of their reserve drivers the following year. He's tested for the team and entered free practice at the 2022 Abu Dhabi GP, was Aston Martin's reserve driver, and stood in for an injured Lance Stroll in preseason testing. He took part in free practice at Monza last year and showed his mettle once more in Abu Dhabi, putting in a time within 3/10 of the fastest car in practice, and quicker than Stroll. He is a driver that many people expect to break through for 2025, and Williams could be the perfect place. So there you go. That's everyone that could be on the move at the end of 2024. There is going to be a lot going on behind the scenes this season, and we could end up with some pretty wild driver moves. But what do you think would be the biggest shock? And who do you want lining up for your team in 2025? Let me know your thoughts on my predictions in the comments down below. And until next time, drive safe and bye for now.